Hey, what's going on, guys? So I wanted to record this response because I think it will help a lot of people. Specifically, this was a question asked by one of my OG members. Shout out to Ali. And as I sat down to answer it, I thought, you know what, I better capture this because this is not a unique scenario, and it's probably something that I think will serve a lot of people. So the question is three parts. Basically, they have customers who are buying an academy, and they want to make sure that they get the login details after they purchase the academy access. That's pretty standard. If you're selling something, you want to make sure people get it, right? So his questions are as follows. Number one, is there a way to check and see if these emails bounce? Like if they're not being delivered for one reason or another, we need to know that because the person who purchased will be frustrated that they're not getting their access, right? Number two, is there a way to see if these emails are not opened? So similarly, if we're sending the emails, but the customer isn't seeing them or isn't opening them, well, that's on us as the person offering the product or service to make sure that we're doing everything we can to avoid that frustration that they might feel when they can't find the thing that they bought. And the third question is there a way to automate warnings so that we can have a staff member proactively reach out in the event that the person isn't getting their info or just isn't logging in? So here's how I would handle this. Number one, if they bought the academy, if they bought that course, we want to make sure that we are sending them that email right away. So login details. This is just a placeholder email, but I have a link in here indicating that here's where you can log into the academy. So that's number one. But I would recommend putting multiple touch points in here. So that means maybe 3 days in a row sending them the login details, just making sure that they have it right at their fingertips. And then what I would do is I would use a link click goal to stop that sequence when they click the link or when they actually log in. Now, Ali asked specifically, like, could we use a goal to track whether or not they opened it? And you could use an email open goal. But for me, what's more important than them opening the email is them actually clicking the link and logging into the academy. Now, the second reason I recommend using the link click goal is just because there's less vulnerability, there's less opportunity for error there. With the email open, it's sort of dependent on email tracking. Email open tracking is inherently flawed. There are plenty of ways to open an email that don't register as an open, and there are plenty of ways to have it register as an open where they didn't actually read the email. So yeah, you could use an email open goal, and that allows you to track emails in the previous sequence, and if they open any of them, then it would achieve that goal. But I think my preference here would be the link click goal, and then you would just want to have a plan for what's next. So after they click the link indicating that they have logged in, I would probably just follow up with survey or ask them how they're finding it or additional resources. But the goal is to use that click to make sure that they move out of this sequence, and that allows us to build in as many touch points as we want in this sequence, because we know that as soon as they log in, as soon as they click the link to join the academy, that sequence will, of course, stop, because this goal will move them into this sequence. So that's how I would handle that for the opens and the clicks and the follow-up. But specifically with regards to the email bounce automation and what you could do there, I would encourage you to use a tag. So if an email bounces, right, if we register a bounce in the system, I would apply a tag automatically to represent that. So hard bounce, there we go. So if they're in this sequence and that tag is applied, then I would want to pull them out of that sequence because, well, they no longer need to be in there. We need to handle them a different way now that we know that email isn't being received. And the way I would do that is probably set up a separate process down here for hard bounce recovery. So hard bounce recovery, and you could actually, if you prefer, you could put that over here after the initial tag. I'm building it separately for a reason here, but I'll show you guys in just a second what that looks like. So hard bounce recovery is where I would create a task for somebody on my team to figure this out, right? If we have a bad email address on file for them, but they just purchased, it's a top priority for us to get them the thing that they purchased. So I would make sure that I'm tasking that to a staff member or to myself to go figure out what's the right email address and how do we get things sorted out. And if that means getting on the phone with them, so be it. But it could also be reaching out through Facebook Messenger or through some other channel if you have additional means of contacting them. So that's what I would do there. The reason I put this down here separately is because I would include a decision diamond up front here so that anyone who buys, if they already have that hard bounce tag, they end up going into this sequence rather than into the welcome sequence. Because if they already have the hard bounce tag, that means that they're not going to receive the emails that are in here. So I would set up this decision diamond to be set to say if the contacts tags doesn't contain, and then you can put your hard bounce email. And then for the hard bounce recovery, if the contacts tags does contain, and we would choose the hard bounced email there as well. The next thing I'll do is I like to add a blank sequence before this goal. I call it an empty gate, right? And the reason that I call it that is because this goal, I only want people to be able to achieve this goal if they're in this campaign, right? Because I don't want anyone who gets the hard bounce tag to automatically end up in this sequence. I really only want this sequence to be used for people who should have been in this one or who were in that one and recorded a bounce. So by adding the empty gate here, it gives me the setting for this goal can only be achieved by contacts in this campaign. And that ensures that people who get the hard bounce tag and are not in here, they won't be added to this one. That means that the purchase goal is still our only entry point for this campaign. Now, if you're wondering where that hard bounce tag gets applied, the answer is under marketing settings. On the very bottom here, you have email status automation, and you can set up when an email bounces. You can raise a tag for when bounce type is hard bounce. That's what I have done here. So when the bounce type is hard bounce and the email bounces exactly one time, I want to apply this tag. Of course, you could do plenty of other actions here, but for the meantime, we're just going to choose apply that tag. That means that when the bounce happens, it's going to automatically achieve this goal. It's going to automatically achieve this goal, and it's going to move them into there. Or if they enter the campaign and they already have that tag, it'll just route them off to the side. So I think that answers all of the questions here. When they buy the Academy, we've got the delivery sequence in place. We're going to follow up with them however many times it takes to get them to log in and actually engage with the Academy. Once they click that link, we move them into whatever the follow-up is that we want to have happen next. And if they don't click the link, they're going to stay in here. And this is where you have a little bit of your own fingerprint, or your opportunity to put your own fingerprint on this. Is how you want to handle this is up to you. But I would recommend putting something in place. If let's say this is one day and this is one day, and then if those 3 days go by and those 3 emails go out, I would probably wait maybe an additional 3 days, and then I would put a task on somebody's calendar to either reach out to them, or if you're dealing with a higher volume, what you might do is use a fulfillment list to send an internal user a list of the people who have bought but have not yet engaged. So anyone who reaches this step, you can say, I want to send this like a CSV, a spreadsheet of their names to an internal person or to their dashboard or to an external email address. And you can choose to batch this. So you could say, I want to wait until there are, 10 people on this list, but don't wait longer than a week, right? And what that allows you to do is kind of group people together so that when you are reaching out to those people, when you are following up with people who have not engaged, you can do it sort of on a Friday afternoon as a group rather than with one-off tasks as they come through. So like I said, how you handle this is sort of up to you, but what you have designed here is a fulfillment machine that ideally they'll just go, through here, and then through here, and then they'll engage, and then they'll, move on to the follow-up sequence. But you've built in that contingency plan where if they either don't move on, you have a solution for that, or if they don't see or don't engage with the email, or if the email bounces, you have a backup plan for each of those scenarios as well. And then the last thing that I kind of skipped here is you would want some sort of objective here, so that if they complete this task, you move them out of that sequence and maybe, back into whatever it is you want to have happen once that task is completed. But that's it. So for Ollie or for anyone else facing this type of scenario or these types of questions, hopefully this answers them for you and gives you some ideas for how you could streamline or otherwise improve this process. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Peace.